Wow. That was weird. I saw Matt and then he was gone. Hey, it's Thirsty Thursday. It's time to hang out. And tonight we are going to do an expedited show for a couple of reasons. One, Matt's going to join us here in just a little bit. He's actually, well, for lack of a better term, washing his balls right now. And we're not going to interrupt that. Can't say balls on the air. Testicles? Baby batter beans?
I think that one's okay.
That's okay.
Yeah, that one passed.
Yeah. So, while he's stroking the old yogurt cannon in the shower, we're going to go for 1 hour, and then we have not done an after show in a while. Haven't hung out with our patrons in that format for a hot minute because we've all been busy. We've had things going on, and we've had to get sleep because we're doing all sorts of hellacious things to our bodies, all of which are legal, just not very sane. And so it's going to be the old school lawn care help desk format tonight. So type in those questions, email them if you'd like. If you want to go old school, you can send those to mail@thegrassfactor.tv, and we'll take a look at those. We'll take a look at the ones in the chat, and we'll go through these. And also, if you want to join us after the show, in the after show, you can go ahead and hit us up, www.patreon.com/burn-return. Go over there, join us for the price of what I believe is now less than the average gallon of gas in the United States at the low end. Or, if you want to pay more money, go ahead and do that. We'll hang out. You'll get access to our private Discord server and access to our after show, which is a little bit more risque than the yogurt cannon. Hey, the first question just came in the chat. Did you wash your balls in the shower? Or did you
I did.
Yeah,
I have to. So, right now at work,
get a court order.
It should be a court order. We're working with this material, and I'll give you. I can't say what all the active ingredients are, but
Sure.
let me tell you, it leaves like a film kind of on your skin. One of them is an ultra fine silica powder. It's not crystalline silica; it's amorphous silica, and it's like an ultra pure. Let's see, 400 micron, 500 micron amorphous silica, and it just, when it gets in your skin, it's so unbelievably dry that when you lay on the bed, it's an odd sensation. Like it's weird. So anyway, I use this brush and I scrub the holy shit out of my skin and try to remove as much of the surface layers as I can tolerate in a 24-hour period. And I have fresh balls. Quite fresh.
Well, that's good. All right, so we're doing the questions here. Let's go ahead and dive in on the ball washing here. T-Dot says, got a hotel room for the weekend, an 8-ball of crank, and Tiffany White is heading over. I'm kicking her ass out Monday morning. So,
yikes.
You can't kick her out if you're in a bathtub of ice bleeding out while you die. So just keep that in mind.
Hopefully and you can't kick her out when she's tied you up. When she's tied you up. I mean, that's hard.
All right. Let's see here. Okay, Yard Heart. New lawn install started. Irrigation just went in. 5 zones. All right. We won't judge you by the size of your irrigation system, I promise. Sod is going down next week. Forecast is upper 80s, low 90s, and ET has been running around 0.2 to 0.5. What irrigation cycle should I set? So, if you've got, I'd run the holy hell out of this. I mean, if you get 5 zones, I don't know residential heads all that well, right? What would be a typical precip rate on a MP rotator or a small PGP? Help me out here. What's a precip rate per hour?
That is about a 1/2 inch to 0.75 inch per hour, Ryan. So here's where I would go. I would plan on a 10-minute run time 4 times per day the first 1 to 2 weeks until the sod takes root. And then once the sod has taken root, then I withdraw back to maybe 1 irrigation cycle per day at 20 minutes. And then objective is to get it to where the sod is irrigated for a total of a half an inch 2 to 3 times per week.
So that's pretty fair. I think. Yeah.
Does that sound about right, Ryan?
It sounds about right. I might, if you've got that high of an ET rate, I might run it a little bit harder at night. And when I say at night, like, if you get 4 sets and you're talking like 8, 11, 2, and 5 p.m., so starting at 8 in the morning, 11 a.m., 2 p.m., 5 p.m., 3 hours apart, assuming that you can get through all your zones and get that precip rate, that shouldn't be a problem because you're only around 10 minutes. It's 50 minutes runtime. I would, use that 10 minutes as a guidepost if you think you need to water more to get moisture below your thatch layer. It depends on how thatchy and how thick the sod comes in. There's a lot of different factors here, but I would not be afraid to turn that on, like, especially the first week, like at 3, 4 in the morning, because you're dry. Your air, if you have 0.2 to 0.25 ET rate, your relative humidity is pretty low. I wouldn't be bashful about soaking the living shit out of it. Put like 20 minutes down at that time, get some good base moisture down in the soil, and then just kind of some spritzes, if you will, some syringe cycles.
Okay.
Like Ray said, in 10 minutes a day.
Yeah, my mother caveat to this is that the first time I run an irrigation system on a newly sodded area, Ryan, what if I told you that I will put down up to an inch of water in that first run and then go to that 4-time-a-day schedule?
Yeah, I'd be fine with that. Soak the shit out of it. I'd even water it with a hose the first time out. I'll take it a step further.
Okay,
because Ray,
that's the other thing that I was going to say is that the first watering on sod is not from the irrigation. It's sprinkling it from a hose until the ground doesn't accept any more water, and then you let the water dry down a little, and then you roll it so that it's flat.
Yeah. Well, it's not so much that it's, I don't roll it so much that it's flat, but I roll it so that we have good root to soil contact and there's no air gaps. I've seen sod that's been installed, specifically blue and fescue sod that's been installed before, where they didn't roll it. There's air gaps. It never really roots, and then when we get into really hot,
and it dies in those spots.
It dies in those
spots, doesn't it? Yep.
So, Yard Hard, two caveats there from everything you heard. Treat it like it's a kidnapping victim with a dog down the well. Give it the hose again. Okay, number one. And the thing that you have to remember when you're with Ray is, as good as the first time is, the second time is always better.
What? What?
Hey, Sheila told us about your birthday.
Not meaning to stall. Serious question. Would you try to do that on like a Monday, Wednesday, Friday schedule, and just set it and walk away from it, or how? I guess let me rephrase it this way: how frequently would you revisit that to see about making adjustments, considering the time of year it is?
Every day.
Okay.
Every day I'm looking at
every day. Every day. Every day for the first week, Matt. I mean, that's just how it is. And then once I see the sod put roots into the soil underneath, I then am less anxious. But until that rooting occurs, it's high anxiety time. And Matt, do you know which variety of sod gives me the most anxiety?
I'm going to say Xeon Zorja.
Correct, Matt. Correct.
Oh God.
No, because that
I was speaking really from my fear there. I'm glad you co-signed it.
No, because that son of a bitch oftentimes does not want to take root for the first 2 to 3 weeks after it's been laid. I've seen it take as long as a month before it takes root. And in that time, everybody is biting their nails, freaking out, and hoping their damn $5 a square foot sod doesn't die.
Yeah, I've seen it with a lot of Zorjas, especially the newer hybrids like Palisade Zorja. You introduce a little bit of shade in that, and it can legitimately be a 4-week process before that starts to take root.
A month, right?
It is
It'll take 'em
annoying as hell.
Mhm.
I'll kind of get us moving along here. Would you recommend sodding Zenith zoysia up against fescue? I don't see any issue with it. You know, the difficulty of, you know, maintaining a warm season and cool season grass side by side is there, right? But I mean, if you're mentally prepared for that, that's fine. You know, is the Zenith zoysia going to gradually run into it? Sure, depending on how deep the shade is. But like, is there anything that just sticks out in my head of like why not to do that? Not really.
Only if you don't want a zoysia neighborhood, Paul. I mean, you're going to become the neighborhood's favorite guy. You're going to become the neighborhood's favorite guy, Paul. I mean, I've seen it happen.
In that regard, I would definitely say do it, Paul. As a fan of zoysia myself, Ray and I will both die on each other's hills on that one. Travis Tyler says, why is there such a difference in requirements to get a spray license between states such as Alabama and Florida? States' rights, man. Everyone regards and governs their state slightly different than the other one. Now we're all you know, held under some laws that are federal, right? Like we have FIFRA that we have to abide by. We have the EPA, which is going to be federal. However, when it comes to qualifications in order to obtain a pesticide applicator license, that's going to be up to the individual states what they require. But you have to think about it too, is that it's going to be easier from a qualification perspective to limit it to a state. Probably makes more sense regionally, right? But you know, hey, state by state, that's pretty fair, right? Like you're going to see shit in Florida that you're not going to see in North Carolina, right? Same to South Carolina, and to a large degree, you know, South Florida is going to be different than South Georgia. So you know, it makes sense that there's going to be some variance there state by state. Now, on the flip side is that, you know, Biloxi, Mississippi is also going to be wildly different than Olive Branch, Mississippi, right? From the southern end of the state to the northern end of the state. Not crazily different. It's just parts of Biloxi, you may not get dormant sometimes of North Mississippi. Yeah, you know, you're going to have 2 months, 3 months of dormancy that you have to deal with. You go to South Texas up to, and then up to North Texas where you're up in Oklahoma and all that jazz. It was crazy different. I mean, you're going from never going dormant all the way up to, you know, snow cover being down for a chunk of the year too, right? You know, a fescue, dry climate up in North Texas, you know, where it's cold regularly. So anyway, you know, trying to put a little bit of that into perspective, but that's, you know, it's up to the states, man. States' rights. Southwest Ohio overseeding rate for tall fescue after core aeration on yards that are in pretty good shape. That's for you, Demand. Where are you at on that?
If they're in good shape, 4 or 5 pounds, maybe 6, if you really want to get squirrely with it, but 4 or 5 pounds should be fine.
Yep. I cringe a little bit when I see people flipping the spreader to wide the F open on a tall fescue lawn that is badass, and just
wait until the after show.
Yes. And just a little bit of a precursor for people. If you were interested in that kind of thing, I'm going to give a little rundown after the show, and occasionally from time to time, even when there's no show, we like to hang out, and we like to go over some of the strange things that we find in internet lawn care, and provide a bit of a scientific basis, more so for the comedic relief aspect, but occasionally we'll interject with some sciencey stuff over whether it's good, bad, ugly, whatever. What'd you say?
Nothing. Sorry. Beverage.
Yes, and so anyway, we do that. And if you would be interested in that additional content, you can go over to patreon.com/burn and return. You will see, you know, it's for the cost of an airport beer. It's very little money, and one, you get access to hang out with us in a more one-on-one environment. You get to hang out with the other people that are also there. One thing I can promise you, that it's going to be a community of extremely like-minded people. We tend to, without really doing anything, the people who are not like-minded usually weed themselves out. It's actually pretty interesting. So if you come in there with the mindset that you are better than everyone else at everything you do with the rest of the world, I promise you're not going to make it. But if you come in with the standpoint that like everyone else is there with the intention of learning more, and it can be about anything. If you want to learn more about fitness, there's going to be people that are really into that. If you want to learn things about IT, there's people that are really into that. If you want to learn things about academia, we have some academics in there. They're going to talk to us. If you're interested, even in organics and compost, well, we have a whole section dedicated to that too. Shout out to our buddy who holds it down over there, Spear the Goat. So anyway, there's something for a little bit of everybody. If you do not enjoy getting your balls busted, you probably want to stay out. If you're not into bad words, they freak you out, they make you nervous, you probably want to stay out. But if you want to be around people that have a genuine interest in learning and doing better at whatever it is they choose to do, it's probably a cool place for you. Patreon.com/burn return. All right, here we go. Worth pre-watering before sod installed. You might.
No.
See, this is where it can get real funky, right? It depends on how much dirt work's done. If you're talking about running a little bit of water on it to knock the dust down, so as you're walking across it and it's 110 degrees, that you're not inhaling, clouds of dust, I get that. But if you're going to go and get an inch of water down immediately before hauling piece of sod after piece of sod, and then you have 4-inch mud cakes on the bottom of your shoes, you are literally going to wish you were dead. Then carry one more piece of sod. Turning your shoes into 130 pounds a piece anchors is not a good time. I promise you, it is never a good time.
No.
And then the holes you're going to leave across the soil surface as you're doing that is going to equally make you think that that you need a redo in life. What's up, Gerardo? It's my big dog over in Cookville. Thanks for coming to see me the other day, by the way. I said, see, another young blood got into it, is 100% invested. And, that is, to me, that is one of the most inspiring things, is to see the next generation, the next iteration of lawn care guys get into it and have the fire. I worry sometimes about there not being enough spark to go round, but our buddy in North Carolina, so many people in North Carolina, also Gerardo here, you meet someone and you see they have the fire in their eyes, and it's awesome. It's a sigh of relief. It's encouraging, and it's very inspirational, even from my standpoint, to want to do more. Can you use Pilex combined with quinclorac, or is mesotrione with quinclorac a better option to get rid of grassy weeds and control Bermuda and a fescue lawn, weeds, or Dallas and goosegrass? Hey, DeMay, what is the colloquial name for Pilex and quinclorac?
Oh, they call it pile driver.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
It is a phenomenal tank mix. What are you going to say, Ray?
Mm-hmm. However, if somebody has Dallas grass and goosegrass and not many other weeds such as crabgrass or wild violet or clover, I would advocate for leaving out the quinclorac and then hammering that area with 2 to 3 successive applications of just Pilex. And here's why. Pilex has activity on both goosegrass and Dallas grass specifically. Yes. Quinclorac does not. So if you can, use up that Pilex on the Dallas and the goosegrass. And by the way, when I last talked to the BASF people, say about 7 or 8 years ago, what they told me was, when possible, they would rather see people use Pilex or break out the Pilex only if they have a goosegrass problem. They rather you use something else if you don't have a goosegrass or Dallas grass problem.
And I'll say this, is that in all likelihood, if you're seeing Dallas and goosegrass in our area, chances are it's eat up with crabgrass too. But in the event, say it did get a pre, and obviously Dallas is not going to be controlled by a pre, considering it's a perennial, and not just a ton of perfect efficacy against goosegrass, especially depending on timing of say like prodiamine or dithiopyr with goosegrass. You could be just dealing with Dallas and goosegrass, and in that instance, that's where the Pilex alone versus Pilex plus quinclorac could come into handy. Um, uh, yeah, and the other thing about that too is your reseed interval is going to be really, really short. So, it's a great option, especially because you're running up to seed season as well too. I think that's a big win of both those options. But that versus mesotrione, or either of y'all in favor of mesotrione versus Pilex in that situation?
I would stay away from it.
Okay, I wouldn't do it either. Yeah, I wouldn't do it either because mesotrione by itself, or even in combination with quinclorac, not that strong on goosegrass or Dallas grass. However, if he were asking me the same question and this was a Bermuda turf, I would talk to him about adding Sencor or Simazine to his mesotrione. And then he's got something. But then because this is turf type tall fescue and cool season grass, I rather he spend the money and do the Pilex instead. More efficacious.
Yep. And more efficacious on knocking back the Bermuda too, especially going into seed season. That's an advantage.
Yep.
Is there a sweet spot percentage for Kentucky Bluegrass in a tall fescue blend? Meaning you get the aesthetics of Kentucky Bluegrass, but not the higher water requirements and inputs. That's a good question. I don't know the answer to. May I'm gonna steer the boat in your direction and let you ponder that one.
It's in your court. It's in your court.
I don't know that there's a correct answer in this because I think that the type of bluegrass that you're growing is very important because there's different types of bluegrass to go look up. Kentucky bluegrass types, you've got like compacts, subcompacts. My brain's mashed potatoes right now, and I'd rip off more of them. But the point being is that they'll grow, kind of differently. So, within that, so I'm not talking about cultivars. I'm saying that these cultivars are grouped into these subtypes, right? So understanding what the growth habit of those are like, how aggressive they are or not aggressive might turn the table there a little bit. The other part too is that I think it's underutilized, like mixing turf type tall fescue in higher proportions with Kentucky bluegrass. You see a lot of like 90-10 mixes, right? So 90% turf type tall fescue, 10% bluegrass in those cases, but I don't see a lot where it's more balanced, right? Like a 50-50 blend or something like that. JPink, throw that picture up real quick that I sent you. So this is a field in Western Pennsylvania, high school football field. And I took this picture a few weeks ago. I was walking it because this is one of the best in situ examples of a mix, a really good mixed stand. Now, there's no tall fescue in here. There's very limited tall fescue in other parts, but this is blue rye. And if you look down in there, you can kind of see the bluish hues and the shorter grass, and that's the bluegrass sticking in there. And then those taller shoots that you see sticking up above the bluegrass is actually ryegrass. And we make these blends of seed up in these mixtures and try to get the perfect species dynamic and everything like that. For instance, I could tell you, like, I built a golf course 20 years ago, seeded with 85-15, 85% bluegrass, 15% ryegrass. 5 years later, you couldn't find ryegrass because we fed the shit out of the blue with fertilizer and thickened it up, and it just took over, right? And I think that's the danger of having too much bluegrass in a tall fescue mix, is that it will continue to gain ground, especially if you give it more fertilizer. But this example right here shows what natural species diversity, when you seed these grasses, right, and let them grow and do their thing and don't overdo it and try to push one over the other, this is what you get. And it's a very, very, I walked by it, and this is a patch on a 80,000 square foot football field that might have been, I don't know, like 100 square feet. And I just stopped, and it was like, the heavens were shining down on it. I was like, man, this is a really cool little specimen here. So anyway, that's my little story. I'll shut the fuck up now. But J Farm, just be careful on how much bluegrass you put in there if you're going for tall fescue, right? I would say 10 to maybe 20% max. And I think that's where you're going to see your benefit. more of bluegrass being in there to be something to help knit it together, and also something to help recover if you do lose some tall fescue, that there's enough bluegrass in there to kind of help fill in those voids.
One thing I was just going to say is, eventually you tend to see the grass types, and I'm going to use this word loosely, segregate. Where you'll kind of see like a 500 square foot patch of this, a 500 square foot patch of that. Is there, even though you're overseeding it every year, is there any way to prevent that, or is that just kind of the nature taking its course?
Nature taking its course.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I was just lobbing that out there. More so, I wanted DeMay to say it out loud because eventually that will happen. So anyway, something to keep in the back of your head. The ability for it to happen is there. Maybe that's more accurate. Can someone please bring some rain already? I wish I could. We are starting to need it here as well. Winter overseed, South Texas, currently 1/2 inch, 418 Bermuda. What would you choose and why? Been eyeing up Saber 3 Poa Triv. Me personally, I would not do a Poa Triv overseed. One is the color. Two is it's easier to kill. I'd say they're probably in the same vein with the newer hybrid perennial ryegrasses and Poa Triv. They're probably in the same level of ease to kill. They're both probably Poa Triv might be a little easier on the green up of Bermuda, maybe. But I'm honestly just guessing though. That's a total guess from me. I don't know that for a fact. I'm thinking from the aspect of allolepathy and just how badass these new perennial ryegrasses are. Just incredible. They're incredible. They're hardy as hell, gorgeous. Oh,
and that's what I was just gonna say too. Is that a lot of the, I don't want to say they're old wives' tales, because some of it's true in terms of the bad rap or the cons that you'll hear about different species of grass, but especially in the cool season side, the genetics have just blown past any of those expectations or old wives' tales or whatever you want to call them, right? For the most part, I don't know. There's just a lot more vigor and a lot more wider use cases for all these grasses. It's not just like everybody getting on Nor about ryegrass, like, oh, it works because he's got better grasses. If he was planting perennial ryegrass from 20 years ago, he would not be that successful, and he would tell you that too.
Yeah. Ryegrass 20 years ago was wildly different than what we're dealing with now, and it's unbelievable. And so I want to make this clear to you, Jackson, that I am going to be partial to perennial ryegrass. I'm looking up Saber 3. The turf quality on it is okay. They give it a 7. According to DLF. I would like to look at it on let's see, and this is in Oregon, right? So I just would not have a high expectation of this being, a really nice looking winter coverage. Me personally, looking at this.
Speaking of ryegrass and everything like that. So one of the bad things about these improved perennial ryes is that when you go to get rid of them, like even if you're just waiting for the heat in South Texas to bake these things out, it's still not pretty.
Nope.
It's not pretty.
No, you are going to have to spray out perennial ryegrass, period.
So what do you feel about like the improved turf type annuals, like Barenbrug? Don't look, Jesse. Cover your earmuffs, Jesse.
Earmuffs, Jesse. Yeah.
Like SOS, I think is what it is. No, don't like it.
No. I've seen it up close. I thought it was absolute garbage. Absolute garbage.
Remember,
that's, again, I'm comparing this to 25 pounds per thousand. Really badass perennial ryegrass on baseball fields. God, it is so beautiful.
It was like 2 or 3 years ago. Moving Shrub, Phil, on our Discord. What, you all right there? Well,
Yeah,
malfunction.
out.
Phil scalped out his Bermuda. He's planning on redoing his Bermuda the next year, and he went out on his front lawn with Champion GQ from Seed Research of Oregon at like 30 pounds. And dude, that shit was like the Rose Bowl. It was like 747s were flying over at 40,000 feet, and they're like, "Oh, there's Phil's lawn."
Yep. Yeah, there's Phil's lawn.
Everything else is fucking brown, and then it's like, what's that green dot down there, Phil?
But that was on purpose. That was on purpose, though, because I told Phil to drop a really heavy overseed on his zoysia for the specific purpose of getting rid of his zoysia. I wanted to utilize that rye to kill whatever zoysia, because Phil had what I'm going to call a real mixed up lawn, because he had various varieties of Bermuda, and then he had some zoysia here and there, and he didn't want it anymore, and he wanted to go to, I think, Tiff Tuff. So I told him, use the rye to kill out all of the zoysia and the foreign grasses in your yard, because that's what rye will do to zoysia. That's what rye will do to zoysia if you overseed, is it'll kill the zoysia.
Matt Martin would have fertilized that at like 6 pounds per 1,000 3 times through the summer with 3300, just so the customer would drop him before they asked him to redo it.
I've got the stories. Yes, I have done it.
Please drop me.
Many times.
Please be the call.
Matt, we're just gonna cancel you. You're in the neighborhood and you're staring at your phone, screaming, "Call me! Call me!" It's a bad day. But again, when you're working at True Green and it's 109 degrees outside, you have no air conditioner in your truck. It's 4:00 in the afternoon, and you're contemplating every life decision you've ever made. That's
and just entertainment. Wait to go back there and find 8-Ball Gary laying down in the bathroom.
Don't call 911. Don't call 911. Which, rest in peace, Gary. I'm a legitimate, great friend of mine. He did overdose and die, and it was tragic. But again, one of my great friends I had from True Green, and rest in peace, Gary. I love the holy shit out of you, buddy. I'll never forget you. That is for damn sure, Gary. Recommendations for grubs in a large area with no irrigation, no significant rainfall for the year. Pretty much ate up at least 3/4 of an acre this year. Have imidacloprid, but nothing rainfall to move it. Oh God, man! If you can't move it,
if you can't move it, I mean, you can't kill it.
You can't move it, can't kill it. Foobarred. If you have like ultra high volume, and this is like such a 1 in 100 chance, literally 1 in 100 chance. A 10, 20 gallon per 1,000 square foot application of a pyrethroid, maybe. And I highly doubt it. Highly doubt it. Again, 1% chance of it being slightly effective.
There is no rain.
If it's that dry,
God damn.
If it's that dry, no. It's you have to water it in.
I was going to say,
and the only other.
Go ahead.
The only other way I could see is this year is in the books and done. But Ryan, how would you feel about him building up chlorantraniliprole in the soil?
Like putting it down during a rainy season, and
yes, leaving it there, because you know how long chlorantraniliprole lasts in the soil? Over a year.
972 days is the half-life.
Whoa.
Yep. Yeah, that's my only thought, because the other alternative is he'd have to call me. I bring the Trident, and I'm putting down Dialox at 20 gallons per 1,000.
I just looked
at the only other way
for Iowa. If I were this guy, I would save your imidacloprid for next year, buy some seed, and put that out before the next time it rains.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. There we go. but by the okay, real quick, as you know, people are talking about recognition. Am I looking at the right label here when it says recognition is trifloxysulfuron, a 20%
Yes.
AI?
20.
Okay.
You're looking
So
at that
that makes
correctly.
sense, right? Like when you're so trifloxysulfuron is also known as monument. I am a monument simp through and through. There is no bigger fangirl in the world than I am. And what's funny about it is the the sections on the label about like what not to apply it to, right? And specific to that is that anybody who's played around in a centipede or St. Augustine market has played around with low rates of sulfonylureas to try and improve weed control on different things. I know I've done it with Revolver at really low rates to varying degrees of success. I've done it with Monument at low rates on St. Augustine with a little bit better than poor results. And so it's interesting that we are re-releasing Monument at 1/3 or a little less than 1/3 the amount of AI and calling it a new ingredient. Now I don't know how the rates rack up once
Matt,
they're right. So what's that?
I know the secret. I know the
What is it?
secret. I know what the difference. Okay, the rest of the content of recognition is this molecule called metcamephin, and what metcamephin
Okay.
and what metcamephin is that is literally a safener that not only allows the St. Augustine to tolerate the trifloxysulfuron, but how's this one? This metcamephin also has the property of improving the tolerance of both St. Augustine and zoysia to fluazepop.
And if you're interested in what a safener is, think about adding triclopyr ester to Pylex to lessen the rate of bleaching, right? So
to mitigate the whitening.
You start to see, some of these synergies between various herbicides. Here we actually have an in container ingredient that is acting as it. Now metcamephin probably is alone is not
it's not a herbicide.
But
however,
we have a molecule here functioning to improve efficacy and the safety profile of a reduced rate herbicide. Fascinating.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting, because what if I told you that it will enable St. Augustine to tolerate rates of fusilade that would normally kill the St. Augustine? You can apply enough fusilade, if you combine it with recognition, to actually kill out Bermuda.
Yeah,
how's that?
That's pretty interesting. That's fascinating, as a matter of fact, and that makes a whole lot more sense about it. I was about to go on a tangent there, so thank you for saving me from.
No problem, Matt. Because for me personally, I'm also a Monument fanboy as well. Okay, I'm a Monument fanboy too, but I don't see a use for recognition unless I had to treat St. Augustine contaminated with Bermuda.
Let's see. When we were talking about the pile driver, Evie said, "What about adding a claim to it?" I know a claim has some negative interactions to, you can inhibit the efficacy of a claim with is it 2,4-D or
2,4-D inhibits it. 2,4-D cancels out a claim. But here's the good news: is that if you have a claim with quinclorac and Pylex, or a claim with quinclorac and mesotrione, that becomes the cleanup grass herbicide.
Is it overkill? Like I can't think of anything I would get by adding a claim to the tank beyond what I'm going to get with, say, Pylex, quinclorac, and sulfentrazone.
What you're going to get, Matt, is you're going to get more inhibition on Bermuda because a claim is damaging to Bermuda. It's rather damaging. So if somebody has a issue with rampant Bermuda, I think I would be throwing in a claim every round I could just to inhibit it.
Makes sense. That definitely makes sense. For sure, Dallas and Goose, I'm starting to see appear in my fescue and warm season. Thankfully, it's time for a cleanup and put warm season to bed, per se. Understand that. Dan, the lawn man, said, I do 2 split pre-emergent apps a year. However, right now, weeds are popping up in yards I maintain. Since South Florida doesn't have low soil temps, what are your thoughts of adding a pre-mid-season? This is where you're going to run into issues with annual maxes and creating more problems from root pruning than you will solve problems from weed prevention. If there's going to be an axis there that can get crossed where you invert on that, because in one instance, does it make sense? Yes, theoretically, that makes sense that you can do that. Now, in practice, the problem is that you are inducing an amount of stress by applying anything that ends in side, right? Any pesticide is going to induce a certain amount of stress on the plant, right? And so it's a constant level of calculus that you're having to employ to determine whether or not it makes the most sense. Now, I'm not going to steer you away from saying that, okay, you do your 2 fall pre-apps, and then you do 1 spring and then 1 late spring or early summer to try and see what it is. But if you're trying to go 2 in the spring, 1 in the summer, 2 in the fall, and try and bounce back and forth between like different AIs to skirt like an annual max, I think you're going to end up creating more problems than you will solutions.
I have another take on this.
Yeah, what is your thought, Ray? I was curious.
Okay. If the weeds that he's seeing are broadleaves, or if the weeds that he's seeing is something like doveweed, then he does need another mode of action in the form of something called that molecule called dimethylamide tower. However, tower is an extremely brutal root pruner. It's bad. If we're talking about your more garden variety broadleaves, then this is where I make the case for utilizing isoxaben as part of the pre-emergent. Because I always have to ask now, when somebody says that their pre-emergent is not holding, I got to ask them, what kind of weeds are coming through that standard spring split app of prodiamine? I got to ask, because if it is anything other than crabgrass or goosegrass or foxtail or other grassy weeds, and it's instead broadleaves, I would start looking towards, is this doveweed? Is this spurges? And if it's one of those 2, then I would target my pre at those weeds specifically rather than trying to apply more dinitroaniline herbicides, if that makes sense.
Yep, and that's a great point, something I did not consider. That's a great point there. Real quick, I just want to get this out of the way. I said I would do this for my wife. Her friend is trying to win a competition. She is a singer-songwriter in New York, in LA, and is in a competition right now. She won the first round. She's getting to perform. She's moving on to the next one and wants to do it. You can use Facebook. It's free to vote. If you don't mind, vote for Shihori, one of my wife's really good friends. Show her some love and give her the opportunity to further her career. She in a lot of the popular animes that the kids are watching these days. She has been the composer of a bunch of those, some really popular ones. And so now she's trying to put a face to where she has been behind the scenes, and this is something that will help her catapult that aspect of her career. We are going to take a look at a couple of emails we had. What's up, Grass Thief? Our favorite Jersey of Jerseyan of all things that are Jersey. It does not get any more Jersey than our friend.
He is
the Grass Thief.
If you work out the Punnett square, he's actually homozygous dominant Jersey all the way through.
Yes. I will say I do not like northern accents at all. I love the Grass Thief's accent. It is so pure Jersey that I actually want to hear him talk. Strange thing. Not sure if this is fungus on my Tahoma 31, and absolutely not how I hope to put it to bed. Any guidance is appreciated. So I was looking at this when I was driving, and I was not able to zoom in. I am doing so now. And in my opinion, taking a look at this, it looked like it was a quick, swift dollar spot issue that happened. I'm thinking, what do y'all think?
Yeah, that color, that right there looks like dollar spot that has run its course for sure.
And
That's
Grass Thief,
Go ahead, Ray.
Grass Thief also had a confession to make to me.
Okay.
Part of this appearance is the fact that he stopped mowing it low and he's letting it grow out. And this is Tahoma 31. And my experience with Tahoma 31 so far has been that it is ideal at about a half an inch or shorter. It does better at lower heights of cut. Whereas what I'm seeing right here is this grass is kind of on the taller side for Tahoma 31. So,
all right.
Other factor too, Matt, is drying.
Are you treating it for a fungus, or are you just gonna? Because in my opinion, this does not look active. It looks like, in fact, it looks like it's already starting to recover. In my eye. What do y'all think?
Yeah, it's coming back.
Are you busting out dollar spot control and going ham on it?
Nope. I mean, this is like it's already starting to grow back, and you know what I don't see on the leaves? I don't see any more of those white lesions with the black banding on either end of the lesion. I don't see that right now, so it's not active dollar spot. I also don't see the morning time mycelium. Depending on what time you took this picture, Grass Thief, I don't see the mycelia, because I got to tell you, I've seen some lawns with dollar spot where I get there at about 8:30, 9 o'clock, and there's mycelia growing all around every lesion. And that's when I start to back away and reach for the lexicon. Not kidding.
Damn.
Yeah. So you said you don't know what to do, Grass Thief. Super simple. Don't do anything. If you're real worried about it, apply a quarter pound of in, or I'd say a quarter pound in, and you still got enough growing season left. You're not going to hurt anything doing that. Just grab some urea or ammonium sulfate, quarter pound in. You're golden. Nothing to worry about.
Fertilize and water. Yep.
And water it in, and that's literally all you got to do. So this is one of those, just be patient, and it's going to grow out, and you're going to be A-okay. All right, let's see. The other one is from Dave. Dave said, I'm in central Illinois. I've struggled with snow mold in previous years. I'm not sure if I should be mowing short, feeding less, skipping nitrogen, all of it. Any tips? Man, I don't know if I have seen anything conclusive on just a purely cultural practice standpoint that is going to provide a surefire efficacy approach on mitigating snow mold. I know, oh golly, what is his name? Dr. Dempsey in Ireland has, if I recall correctly, I'm maybe brain farting on this, but I think he has been doing a lot of research with phosphites and snow mold, if I recall correctly, and showing some degrees of efficacy there as a late season application, prior to the shutdown. But culturally, is there anything that's sticking out to you all off the top of your head? I don't know. I don't know snow mold. I've never had to deal with it, really.
So a couple of things. Yeah, there is some work with Dr. Dempsey and microdocium patch, right? So you can look at that. That's more that's pink snow mold, right? So
Mhm.
gray snow mold is what you're more likely to see in the dead of winter. I think the things that Oh, Micah Woods. Now this is on L93 bent grass, but we've seen it in other cool season grasses too, just anecdotally, where late season applications or really all fall long of potassium can exacerbate snow mold symptoms and signs. So if you are
Mhm,
applying any
mhm.
potassium, just kind of cease that. There used to be this thought that potassium was sort of a winterizer, and even I think if you look at the Scott's winterizer product, it's gone down a little bit, I think, but it still has a pretty good amount of potassium in it. There was some thought that with stress and all the other fucking bullshit that everybody says about potassium, like that there would be a need to put that down prior to winter. But uh, Micah Woods, showed this on low cut turf that there was a higher incidence of it when you apply potassium late in the year. So start with that. As far as mowing heights and things like that, you can trick it. Here's the thing about snow mold is that you find it, you freak out, and then 3 weeks later, as long as the temperatures continue to climb, it's fucking gone. Nothing to worry about.
Mhm.
So I don't get too worked up about it. And if you're really, really concerned about it, go out with, a simple preventative fungicide application, late in the year if you're in central Illinois. I'm thinking like right the week after Thanksgiving time, something like that, and go out with like propiconazole at like 2 fluid ounces per thousand. Pretty safe
Yep.
bet.
High rate propiconazole. And then if you really have valuable turf, then the good one for snow mold is that SDHI called Velista. However, rob a bank. That stuff costs money. But it works.
Yeah. Yeah, I know, Connor had to deal with it and has played around with lots of different things and, trying to mitigate the snow mold issue. It is what it is. Like I said, that's well beyond I get very little snow cover here, and if I do, it's typically gone within
Actually,
24
I
hours at the
remember.
most, maybe 48 hours.
Yeah, I remember talking to Connor about his, snow mold issues, and then we have our friend in North Dakota, Gravy Lookout, who has similar issues with snow mold. And let's just say that after discussing their situation with them, they embarked on a golf course level snow mold prevention program. I'll leave it at that.
Let's see. Okay, I think that was all of our emails. Let me get back over here to the chat and see what's going on. Busy Bees has a okay. All right, never mind. We're gonna move through all that. Where are we?
Johnny Fescue. Along
Johnny Fescue. Let me go over here because JPink is the one who's actually keeping us in check here. Flumioxazin in the soil. So I looked at the SurePower label, and all right, the question is how long does flumioxazin stay present in the soil as far as fescue seed germination after SurePower? The label says 4 weeks. One thing to keep in mind is that it is an ultra low rate of flumioxazin in SurePower. It is not like going out with SureGuard, and because of that, reseed interval is going to be a long time. Flumioxazin in SurePower is not going to be that long. Label says 4 weeks. I would say that with the label, 4 weeks is good. It also says on the label that if you ensure really good seed to soil contact, 3 weeks, 21 days. So I would say that in that 21 to 28 day range, you're going to be okay. Have y'all seen anything firsthand that would counteract that?
Nope.
I have done some less than optimal situation seedings with sulfentrazone at the 4-week mark, and I can't say it was anything that would just cause real problems. Maybe a little slow on establishment. I've done the same thing with some triclopyr before. Spraying a little bit of triclopyr on like a patch of wild violets while I'm seeding. that may be in like the corner somewhere in the backyard and not a high visibility area, and that it didn't completely stop the seed from coming in. It was just painfully slow, where in 6 weeks the lawn looked mostly good, except in that area, it was a solid 12 weeks before, it looked like it was not treated with an herbicide at the time of seeding. So, just something to keep in the back of your mind there. Do any of you used AI label for farms because of the costs? No, Bassmaster, and the reason being is that again, we're professional applicators. We're bound by FIFRA and our local Department of Agriculture, and if we get caught doing that, that is our ass. It's a big fine. You lose your applicator license, and so your question becomes: do you save $20 on this application to lose your ability to make hundreds of thousands of dollars over the next decade, right? Like what is the risk worth it for you there? So I would tell you that don't do that, because ultimately what that ends up doing is giving the EPA, your local Department of Agriculture, and every other regulatory body an opportunity to look at you that did do it and then pass a law that ends up affecting everyone else, right? And so it's easier to just bite the bullet on the front end, play with their games, so that way the bureaucrats do not feel like it's a perfect opportunity to take more and more and more and more, because we're not responsible enough to be able to handle it, right? It's like when your child has a straw and they keep trying to drink, Dr. Pepper through their nose, right? It's like, okay, you're not old enough to be able to handle a straw, so I'm going to have to take it away. Same gig with using off-label herbicides in that regard, right? It's labeled for farm, it's not labeled for turf, and we get caught doing it. It's just going to fuel their. Look up lawns in America on Google right now, and tell me about all the positive press that lawns and lawn care is getting in the news. It doesn't exist. They hate us. They legitimately hate us, and they see no value in turf. And a lot of that is because they can point at things like this and say, look, they can't even follow the measly rules that they already have. Therefore, they deserve all the rules to have nothing. Busy bees, look at Canada. Busy bees, can we dive into? Oh, we already did that. Woody said, would you overseed zoysia? Hell no, hell no, hell no. And Blip
I think we just covered that.
Yeah, also chimed in and said, how does rye kill zoysia? Again, there's an allelopathic issue with allolepathy is a plant will emit various compounds that become toxic to other plants. Perennial ryegrass has a relatively high degree of ability of being able to release these toxic compounds to eliminate competition, right? And the older and more established that ryegrass becomes, typically the greater the effect it has. So and that's why typically if you can spray it out early enough, you manage a lot of that on the front end without having to deal so much with the repercussions on the back end. Zoysia being slow as it is, it takes a long time for it to recover from it, and so where you may overseed like Bermuda grass, and it will take until June to fully recover from it, where normally you would be greened up on May 1st with zoysia grass, where you would normally be greened up by May 15th. It may take you until the following July 4th in order for you to have coverage again. Slower growing, slower to rebound, slightly more sensitive to it, if that makes sense. First attempt to kill Dallas grass with glyphosate in dormant Bermuda coming up. I'm in Oklahoma City, wondering if November will be too early. How do I know if it will be dormant enough? the magic question. My recommendation on this is that chances are you will not time this correctly. You just won't. Deal with it, and you're going to be okay. In a perfect world, what would happen is that you would have enough of a freeze to knock out the growth, the overwhelming growth potential of the Bermuda grass, and not the Dallas grass, right? So you can be dormant with Bermuda, right, where you've had some frosts, right, and it's brown. You dig down into it and you see still kind of that yellow green on the stem, right? You scratch the surface, you still feel a lot of moisture in that grass and stem. Well, even at that point, you're still going to get some movement of glyphosate. So really what you would be looking for is that first freeze and then immediately getting on it. You're not going to time it correctly. It's okay. No one, I've never seen anyone do this successfully. Never. So those patches you do spray are not going to green up, and it's okay because it's Bermuda grass and it will grow out relatively quickly, but it's going to look like spring dead spot until it does fill back in. So just be mentally prepared for that. I don't care how hard you try to time this accurately. It's not going to happen. It's a pipe dream, and it is what it is, and you'll be okay. It's going to be dormant and dead. I mean, it's going to be dead when it comes out of dormancy, the Bermuda, but it'll fill in relatively quickly. It's just the way it is. And if it were me, I would not do that with glyphosate. I'd be doing tribute total apps right now, and then follow-ups in the spring. Just me. Last two here real quick. I'll kind of fly through these. Kettle Spice Girls. All right, let's try this again. What's the requirements of nitrogen on Kentucky bluegrass lawn annually? It's gonna vary depending on cultivars, whatnot, and really how much growth you want to get out of it. So that could be anywhere from 2 to 4 pounds. An easy thing to do is go look at your climate appraisal form at Pace Turf. Do Pace Turf climate appraisal form, put in your zip code, throw it in, and it will approximate your, based off your historical weather temperature data, what your nitrogen requirement will be.
Or just go to golfcourselawacademy.com and pay 4 times the price for a quarter of the fertilizer and just get some highly curated bullshit out there.
Yep. That works. Don't forget what is it? Is it the micro booster, the soil booster, Spox?
I think it's Enzyte
Lawns, remember the name
right?
Enzyte.
Rub this shit on your lawn, it'll grow.
What about overseeding in fescue and spraying out? Yeah, you could. It's just your quality of fescue overseeded Bermuda grass. It's not going to produce a great surface.
Paul, Paul, are you asking that for your cousin lawn barber?
Weirdo.
He's asking that for his cousin lawn barber. He's trying to barb some lawns in North Carolina.
Don't do it. Alex Thompson said, getting ready to sod with Tiff Tuff in my backyard and have crepe myrtle suckers coming up where I dug out the root ball last fall. Any thoughts on the course of action before I sod or after? Try and pull them up again when it does eventually grow through your sod, because it will. Just keep spraying it and trying to dig it out to the best of your ability.
No, you can nuke it, because what you do there, Matt, is some MSM.
Oh, good call. Good call.
Yeah, a little bit of MSM. I mean, that's just fatal to most trees and shrubs, and that's normally a bad thing. But in this case, because he has a former crepe myrtle that he's trying to get rid of, that may be to his advantage. There.
Yeah, or we could do the old Corsair if that was still labeled, but it's not. Okay, they're not even making it anymore. But Corsair, boy, it would kill a tree in an instant. Okay, we're headed out of here. It's in the garage. Oh, I did.
Got some in the garage if you need it.
I do too. I really do. I still have the screw on top to measure it, and it had the little twist.
Oh no!
I know.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh no!
It's been sitting there for years. It's probably all just inert material at this point. Anyway, we are going to the show after the show. Like I said, if you want to come hang out there, it's cheap. It's $4 a month. You can hang out with us on with the additional content. You can also join our Discord. We got some really cool people in there. Travis Shaddix is in there. We have our old buddy at Delaware Turf is up there. UD Turf Man, UD Turf Guy, as you see him on Twitter. And he's actually got some really cool trials and experiments underway right there. I don't think I can go into a lot of details on those, but he's definitely an open book. And there's just in general a lot of people there that are interested in learning. So if you're interested in learning more, patreon.com/burn and return. And then of course you also get access to the different things that we do throughout the course of the year, like our meetup that we have coming up, and that's sold out incredibly quickly. Every time we open it, it tends to sell out faster than it did the year before, even though we increased size by about 25%. Again, we're having to slowly grow into that because we've got to cash flow it too. So it's an interesting thing to watch it accelerate at the rate it has. So yeah, patreon.com/burn and return. If you're not into dirty words or adult content or anything like that, it's okay. It's probably not for you. No harm, no foul. It doesn't bother us. I promise. Jago said, "Are the big time YouTubers in there too?" No, they're not.
No,
they don't. They typically do not like. Well, I take that back. Nor's in there. Nor's a giant YouTuber.
Yeah, Ryan's there. Yeah,
you'll see Ryan, and Brian likes to peep in after a few 3-4 cold beers and share his love of all things sound, music, and production. And so, like, if you want to learn how to produce at an exceptionally high level or have sound at an unreal level, Ryan is in there. We also have people that are actually other audio engineers in there. Ryan is actually a classically trained audio engineer, and we have additional audio engineers in there as well. It's a wild ass place. Legal advice, you name it, you can get it in there. Or if you want to make a bathtub crank, Busy Bees can get you hooked up on that too. I'm sure he knows, although no one has quite directly asked him how to do it yet, thankfully. Anyway, we're headed over there. Love y'all. See you on the flip side. Bye.